All friends here. Sincere thanks for this opportunity to be with all of you. I'm mindful of the time and I'll try my level best to complete what I have to say in 10 minutes. So it's a tough task because the subject that I chose for the address today, devolution, development and democracy, is the subject matter of a 30-hour course that I teach at a few universities. To encapsulate it in 10 minutes would be very difficult, but considering one compliments for starting a master's in development studies, it's a subject whose time has come. It's a theme that needs attention. It's a theme that bridges the gap between academic graduation and work or professional demands. Most of those getting out of universities and getting into the world of work as professionals in development do identify many gaps. And these are the gaps that many a time universities and public policy courses are called upon to fill up. Now in doing so, it's important to have a clear vision which way you want to be headed. I make this point in all humility because often development practice and development studies don't speak to each other as much as they ought to. I'm happy to learn that you have both the courses here, so I'm sure they would be communicating with each other more than they normally do. I raise the issue of devolution, development and democracy from a framework which is holistic, from a framework which begins from households and habitations, and from a framework that values outcomes in the initiatives that large systems take. If I look at the India of today, clearly across the world, there is appreciation for a nation that has managed to grow at 6.5% rates of progress since 1991, which is no mean achievement for any country, the fastest growing large economy and so on. But we have our challenges as well. And when we very dispassionately analyze and look at where the challenges are, these three words of my address today, devolution, development and democracy, all of them become very, very relevant. They become relevant because our challenges are in primary education, our challenges are in primary health, our challenges are in clean environment, our challenges are in nutrition, our challenges are in wages of dignity and quality jobs, our challenges are in quality employment, our challenges are in stable livelihoods, our challenges are in human well-being. And clearly for many of these sectors, if we really wish to make a difference, we will have very necessarily to understand the consequences of not following the devolution, development and democracy pathway. I emphasize the point because these are sectors and there is enough evidence available now. 10, 15, 20 years ago when somebody talked about decentralization or devolution, it was often said that the debate is ideological. There are some who are for decentralization and others who are against it. But today, luckily, we have a lot of evidence to back what we are saying. I'll just quote one or two of them. The Reserve Bank of India 2023 did a study on the state of Panchayati Raj in India. Among other things, it looked at the devolution index of states and looked at the performance of the states in human development. What came out very clearly that states which have devolved more effectively are also the states which have better health and sanitation indicators. If you look at the data further, you also find that the states which devolved and have better indicators, human development indicators, are also the states where the monthly per capita consumption expenditures are high. It is the same Sikkim, the same Kerala, the same Tamil Nadu, the same Goa, which figures at the top, Himachal Pradesh. So clearly, they got something right. There are lessons for us here. I could go on and on with respect to a large number of studies, but suffice to say, our challenge has been that while our systems have gone on scale, and I take responsibility as a public policy maker, we tried many things, some worked, some did not. There are lessons from within government and there are lessons from the civil society. There is a requirement for a diversity of thought processes which are based on evidence. There is a requirement for what I refer to as citizen-centric and community-validated data and systems. Because technology is only a means. Technology is not an end in itself. Technology can do many things. For example, I'll give you a very positive example. I still remember 2015-16, we were trying our best to popularize digital public infrastructure, trying our best to make use of it at the last mile. One of the limitations was that the banks were running a program for banking correspondence on a commercially viable model. It was the famous 1% model, where banks provided a 1% incentive to banking correspondents who provided services in remote regions. Given the dispersed habitation system and given the low offtake on public infrastructure for digital at that time, most of the smaller and neglected and remote villages got neglected in that process. I had the privilege of being a part of the National Rural Livelihood Mission, the women self-help groups, of whom there are now 100 million women in our country. We went to the Department of Financial Services that, look, we will provide you the banking correspondents. These women, many of them educated up to a few classes, we will train them, we'll give them the equipment and they will serve as our banking correspondent. Then alone, we will be able to make full use of the digital public infrastructure at the last mile. As always, any new idea has hesitations. We pleaded for a pilot in one place. We did this in Jhabua. We demonstrated that this was possible. And today I am happy to report that more than 55% Gram Panchayats in the country, about 160,000 women drawn from the women's self-help group movement, are banking correspondents in their panchayats. And the change they bring, technology is only a means. It's not an end in itself. The change they bring is that a 90-year-old widow on her deathbed in a remote Koraput village can be paid her pension on her deathbed. That's what technology provides. So clearly, devolution, development and democracy is about decentralization, is about community resource persons, is about professionals at below block and cluster levels. Clearly, where you can contribute very meaningfully in a master's course in development. What this country needs today is a far larger pool of professionals who understand development and are practitioners of development. A large number of block development officers and others, they have all academic excellence, but many of them are not equipped to do the job that they have been given. For example, managing technology, managing data, managing people was never a part of their curriculum and courses. Can we do something in courses of this kind which prepares us for those responsibilities which are cutting-edge development professional responsibilities? If we are able to do that successfully, you would have added to the skill sets of people. Having been a teacher in quite a few institutions over the last 4 or 5 years now, teaching public policy, what I do find across the board, whether I teach at IIM Calcutta or Institute of Rural Management, Anand, or Indian School of Business, or any of the other institutions that I teach in Ashoka, there is a thirst for development practice. There is a thirst for understanding what is it that will make a well-educated youth wanting to work as a development professional perform better, understand better. I'm very happy that ideas is a collaborative and a convergence idea. Very happy that ideas is a multidisciplinary idea, because there are no solutions in narrow disciplines. The larger solutions are system-wide. The larger solutions are holistic. The larger solutions would lie when different academic streams learn to speak to each other and talk to each other and work together. Friends, there are huge challenges. I could go on, but I would only say that the old saying, the map is never the territory. One little lesson that I have learned for a lifetime, thanks to working with researchers like Jean Drèze for a long time. When we were doing the public report on basic education in 1996, at that time it took me a little time to understand why we needed to do household surveys. School surveys we could understand, but why household surveys? But I need no explanation today. I don't join a team of researchers where we don't do household surveys, because merely looking at the secondary data is not good enough. The map is not the territory. The data may tell me that RO systems are there in every school in Haryana, but it is only the territory which will tell me what percentage of it actually works. And that's where the challenges of development are. These are sectors which require the last mile facilitation. If we are able to do the last mile facilitation better, we would have done our bits. If students graduating out of the MSc Development Studies or Development Practice can contribute to a better last mile facilitation, the university can feel happy about its inputs. Thank you very much for your attention.